Hi guys, thanks for joining today. My name is Jay Welsh, and the talk today for TNW is about big brand pivot. So for those who have joined us today, we hope you take a lot of value from this presentation, whether you work for a brand, you own a brand, or you're looking to develop a brand. We hope that today gives you some really good insight into some of the things that we're seeing within DEPT on both a local and global scale. Cool, so who am I? My name is Jake Welsh. I'm the executive creator at DEPT. My job at DEPT is working with brands on a global level, working with a different variety of brands, from some of those that you'll recognize, from brands like Apple to Netflix to KFC, Sony, PlayStation. We work with a really, really large variety of brands across their kind of brand, their platforms, and of course their creative content. Now, the reason why we wanted to really talk on this today was a lot has changed. A lot has changed in the past 12 to 18 months, and we don't want to underpin this kind of talk and conversation around COVID, because we start to come out of the pandemic now, all brands are starting to look forward to new and exciting times. But the way that we see this is that change has been accelerated, whether that's through COVID or not. Brands need to move at a bit more on a faster rate. So today we want to kind of talk about that and to really start to understand what the big brand pivot looks like, and how you as a brand can start to evolve with that change. Now, before we start to jump ahead, what we always like to do is start at the beginning. So what was branding about, and why do we use branding? And why is it important to have a brand over that of just a company or an organization? And one of the most important things to me as an executive creative is, you know, companies kind of sell words, whereas brands in many ways sell visions. And that's why it's so important to understand how you as a business can work to develop your vision rather than just to sell words and transactions. Now, if we take a step back to what branding was, and always has been in many ways, for decades, if not centuries, the structure of branding was around copy and creative. So we'd always have a copywriter, we'd always have a creative, and really intrinsically the two would work together. Not always, but really they should. So when we start to think about our brand system, really we should be thinking about what we say and the way in which we present that. So we can captivate the audience that we're speaking to through words and through visuals. So if we think about how verbal and visual brand communication has been over the years, where it's in the kind of traditional, the king kind of delivery of content at the time, Volkswagen, all the way through to brands like KFC, through to Pepsi, through to brands like McDonald's. Verbal and visual communication has been key to everything that we know as brand. It's the way that we engage with our existing audiences, and it's the way we've always engaged with new audiences. And whether that be kind of detailed content or kind of more jovial content or more playful content, verbal and visual brand communication has always been in many ways the foundations of how we communicate as a brand. Now, over the years that has evolved, and what's really strange for us, at DEPT, we did a presentation not too long ago, it's about 2 years ago, we did the presentation in Madrid. And the presentation that we talked about at the time was really very much about how brands need to evolve to create brand affinity and what brands really need to be doing to stay ahead of the game. And at the time, what we believed and still believe to this day was an addition to a brand system was not just about copy and creative, it was also about strategy. And this was only 2 years ago. So the fact that we're talking about another evolution for us just shows the kind of aggressive nature of brand change. Now, at the time, 2 years ago, we introduced the idea of strategy informing our copy and our creative. It's not that strategy hasn't always been part of that collective, but how we inform our strategies has changed and matured over recent years. And what's allowed that strategy to advance is the fact that now as businesses and brands, we have access to new tools. So we can gather strategy and insight through things like CRM systems. We can utilize new platforms, whether it be social platforms like Snapchat or TikTok or Twitch. We can use new platforms in order to target new audiences. And over that time, customers have become more and more willing to share their data and to engage with this type of content. So over the years, especially in the last kind of 5 years, not only is kind of creative and content been a key pillar of our brand system, but as has strategy. Now, when we think about strategy forming part of our brand system, what we think about is how we build a deeper brand experience. So what we think about is emotion, behavior, prediction, anticipation, the ambitions of the consumer and the worries of the consumer. And having all of this information allows our strategy to inform content, but also how we show it through and empathetic content that people are likely going to relate with, either on a value level or through an aesthetic level. Now, to put that into practice, we like to call this in many ways priming. So what we do as a brand, we encourage customers to act and feel in a certain way. And normally what that will do is encourage an increased sales. So when we see things on the TV or in print or on social, what we see is something that aligns with us as individuals. So we're more likely to buy that way. So as an example of that, 2 years ago at the time, I used an example called Nest. Now, Nest is just an everyday thermostat. We all have thermostats in our homes. Whether you use it a lot or use it little, most homes will have one. But what Nest did, they used a very, very clever strategic pillar within their brand system to really understand how people behave. So many of us don't like to get involved with our energy bills. People tend to put it off. We don't really know how energy works. So what Nest did is they built their entire brand system around a thermostat that learns as you live. We remember when you get up, it remembers when you get home, it remembers when your kids go to bed, and it adjusts its temperature accordingly. And all of its brand system and communication was built around this. So although it is just a thermostat, the way it's positioned itself as a brand is far more strategic, which know the success of a product such as Nest. Now, only 2 years on, we're kind of sat here today, although remotely, look at how visual, verbal, and strategic branding isn't really enough anymore to build brand affinity. Even in that short 24-month kind of window, everything has changed again. Everything has moved forward. Now, the main reason behind that is the fact that customers' behaviors have evolved much, much further than emotional states. The way we get movies has changed. It's on demand. The way we order food to our doorstep is through the click of an app. The way we get transport is literally within minutes through things like Uber. The way we date, we can find our next partner through literally swiping left or swiping right. The way we live as individuals has changed. And the way we've changed is the fact that customers want to use less time and effort. They don't want to have to work hard. So the way in which we communicate and position our brand is no longer just about content and visual and supported with strategy. It's how we become integrated into lifestyle decisions. Now, if we just take a quick snapshot of how user behavior has changed, around 68% of all the online revenues in the world are made up by the top 5 online marketplaces, like Amazon. 72% of shoppers start their product journey at Amazon, with around 32% of online shoppers using Amazon to price compare before they even purchase, whether it's through Amazon or not. And what this shows is a giant shift in consumer behavior, in the fact that what we have become through the way we consume movies or food or find a partner or shop, we become a quick fix society. That is what we have become. Everything is about efficiency and everything is about speed. So no longer can our brands be simply focused on the way we speak and the way we look and the strategy that supports that. What also supports that is how we can support our consumers to get to where they want to be. So what we think about here is more around things like convenience, speed, integration into their lives, communication in terms of how we communicate, not just through print anymore or out of home. How do we communicate in more intelligent ways? how as a brand do we become something with more purpose, which isn't just something that's a nice item to have, but it actually supports the way people live in their daily lives. And most importantly, how can we become a brand that provides people efficiency? Now, if we think about our brand system, so far we've looked at kind of content, we've looked at our aesthetic, and we've looked at our strategy. We've got to start thinking as brands and as creators, what is that next pillar that allows our brand system to evolve over time? So as we stand here today, what does that brand system look like? Now for us at DEPT, and for me personally, this fourth pillar is technology. Now, what this starts to create is a forward-thinking brand system. It is no longer just about copy and creative and strategy. It is also about technology. And what's really important to define here, technology isn't a tool, okay? It's intrinsically linked to everything that we do as a business and how we connect with our consumers. It should be everything that we do and everything that we say and how we say it. How can we put that into action? Take a look at a brand that a lot of different brand agencies are talking about right now that have really changed the game with where we go with brand and our brand systems. Google. Now, the Google rebrand was an enormous effort on behalf of Google, but it wasn't just about changing the identity or the way that the logo looks or the placement of the logo. What was remarkable about this advancement in Google's brand system was that their rebrand was around how their brand reacts to communicating and assisting and learning and understanding their consumers. Their brand identity was not just built on logo form, it was also built on an evolution of technological form. And what this really shows is where brands are moving forward. It's no longer about just content and creative and strategy behind it. It's also about the technology that we use with our brand system to activate it. So as Google started to evolve that brand system, the Google system starts to become more playful. It starts to become a verb rather than just a simple thing. It's a doing, it's supporting, it's integrating. And that is what future branding and future brand systems are. They are becoming assistants to guiding and aiding a consumer to get to where they want to be. And if you think about the latest advertisement from Volvo, this is a car. Yet the latest advertisement for Volvo XC60, which actually includes Google as part of its integration, starts the advert with, "We are like a smartphone, but bigger." For a car to start an advert as "We are like a smartphone" indicates the impact that technology and brand systems are having across every different sector. The advert is not just about how the car drives, it's how you activate your sound, it's how you can find directions, it's how you can order food, it's how it integrates and supports into your everyday life. With this evolution, this is going to start the presence of change for many, many brands across many, many sectors. And this really is just the start. Now, the X60 advert with Google is an indication of where brands need to start heading. But for many brands or marketeers or creators on this call, it's very, very difficult to identify where do you even start with this type of integration into your brand system, because not all of us are Google and not all of us are Volvo, and not all of us get to work with such attractive products or propositions. So I think it's really important to start to define how we can use technology to align our brand system. And the way we think of technology supporting our creative and our content, our strategy, is a pillared approach. Our initial engagement with customers, how do we drive engagement through utilizing technology? From that engagement, how do we build a more interconnected experience? And how do we build on that engagement through technology? And the final part is, once we've built that connection, how do we use technology to heighten that experience? Now, if we think about engagement, the way in which we inspire new audiences, we want to use engagement in order to bring people closer to our products, whatever your products are. We want to encourage conversation through interaction. We want to align media with practicality and purpose. So where we decide to use technology needs to have practicality through advertising on a smartphone, or building engagement through something that people like to use rather than just a billboard. And how do we build brand engagement towards their human needs? So in this case, for Nike, people want to see what their shoes look like from a distance. So augmented reality is going to form a huge pivotal pillar as we move forward in the world of brand and bringing products closer to people from a distance. Or in some ways, we start to look at ways in which Burger King developed their technological and brand approach. So from no longer simply sending a voucher out in a newspaper for a buy one, get one free burger deal, or giving away a free drinks voucher when you buy your next portion of fries, brands are evolving into new realms of technological advancement. So here what you can see is what Burger King did. They integrated with gaming platform NBA 2K, in which you could actually shoot to win your next product. And this just shows the ways in which brands at the forefront of change, which Burger King certainly is, are to drive new initiatives to drive engagement through technology in their brand system. They're using technology to heighten their brand experience and to engage with their consumers in completely new and unforeseen ways. Now, if we look at the way we use technology once we've driven our engagement to our consumers, we can then start to look at how we support our audiences through technology. So the way in which we use technology to support really should be looking at how we can drive efficiency. Developing a brand experience that focuses on the right purchase for the consumer. So not just a purchase. What's the right purchase? We should be looking to develop brand experiences that inform, educate, and support the consumer's goals, removing concerns, worries, and anxieties. And some of the ways in which we've implemented these types of technologies at DEPT within our consumer brand systems is by looking at technologies such as ad lingo. So when we're delivering an advert through social, such as Facebook or Snapchat or Instagram, we can now start to build communication and conversation through our adverts. So no longer are we just looking to hit a targeted customer base through our advertising. We're actually looking to learn more about our customers and how we can deliver a heightened experience so they choose the right product. Not only that, through technology, we can also look at things like heightening the experience when the product arrives. I'm sure as many of us experience when you buy an IKEA product, we start to look at how we can make the actual installation part that little bit easier. So here you can see you get the pack, you take it home, you scan it with a QR code, and you can now start to learn how to build that product through smart devices. So what they're doing here is they're using technology to heighten their brand experience, and at all times within their brand system, looking at how technology can advance their brand forward to the world of tomorrow. And the final pillar we start to look at how we can use technology is looking at things like our branded experience centers. Now, what we mean by that is the world of high street has changed dramatically, as I'm sure we've seen across all regions. So now what we need to start looking at is really how we use brand and technology to build that ultimate experience. Because really what we should be looking at is the kings of the world, such as Tesla and Apple, who were ahead of this game 5 years ago. How do we use high street to heighten our brand experience? Well, really what we should be doing is encouraging exploration and education. We should be encouraging product enhancement so that people get the best and the most out of the purchase that they've made. We should be integrating buying opportunities as simply and seamlessly as possible. So when you walk into Tesla, it's not a salesperson sat behind the counter. It's someone who wants to educate you on the car, same as Apple. In many ways, it's evolving towards a frictionless payment mechanism. And what we want to do with our high street is start to develop brand experiences that provide natural environments for our consumers where they feel comfortable to go. Now, you're going to start to see many, many more headlines like this, one was from Smashing Magazine, which was about Toys R Us, which, for those who didn't know, disappeared 5 years ago and is now looking to return. And the reason why they're looking to return is that their brand system is now focused on immersive, highly interactive experiences in stores. If we think about some of the major brands that we've lost over the past 2 years through the pandemic, were these brands at the forefront of change, and were these brands utilizing technology as part of their brand system? Because as the drum starts to outline, AR really is the next in social commerce experience. Now, what we mean by that is that we're likely going to start to see new technologies becoming at the forefront of our retail stores. And if you look at the future of Nike and how Nike want their stores to look in the future, no longer are we focusing on things like transaction and looking to drive sale over the counter. What they're looking to build is brand affinity. So people will visit their stores the same way we visit Apple, not just to buy a pair of trainers or buy a set of running gear, but to understand why and the value and the works that are behind the scenes in an organization like Nike. And this is where we see the future of our high street completely changing in line with heightening brand experience and building brands tomorrow. Now, with the short time that we've had to kind of flip through a number of different examples there of why we see technology as part of our brand design system, but we'd love to talk you through many more. But a thing to take away from today is that the landscape where consumers and brands connect and communicate has changed more dramatically than ever before. Consumer behaviors have evolved into a quick fix society, and this means it's about speed, it's about life integration, and it's about efficiency. Now, we believe at DEPT it's imperative that brands pivot with this change, and you start to develop a brand system that aids towards building that brand affinity. Through looking at your copy, through looking at your creative, through looking at your strategy, but most importantly, as of this day, looking at how technology isn't a tool, but a fundamental pillar within your brand system. Thanks, guys. Now, we're conscious, obviously, of time with the 25 minutes that we've got. Now, we have had a few questions come through. We're just going to start to go through now. If you have got any more questions, please feel free to reach out directly to me, and we'll happily answer those after or following that later this week. So the first question that we've had is, if you're a startup with limited budget and resources, which points would you focus on first? It's a very difficult one because all are obviously intrinsically important, because it needs to build awareness. Every brand needs to obviously build a connection to support the consumer through the purchase journey. And of course, we all want to support the consumer by heightening that experience so that they come back and back and back again. But the most important part we would look at really is the support funnel. With the technologies that are now available and the way that we can now support consumers through the purchase journey, there are many, many technological routes that we can go down that aren't expensive, such as things like AdLogo, but also things like chatbots, where we can start to build relationships and connected communication with our consumers without having to hire hundreds of call center teams, manhandling kind of live chat systems 24 hours a day. There are automated systems now that can really bridge connected experiences with consumers to aid them down that purchase funnel. So what we look at within a brand system is utilizing technology in the most efficient way for the organization within budget, making sure that what you build doesn't take 12 months to get to market, and utilizing technologies that do exist so that you as a brand can take quick learnings and improve them through validation and through data analysis of what campaigns actually do engage with their audience. So the second question we got is, how does a brand start to integrate technology so that it becomes part of its DNA? It's a very difficult one. And I'll be honest with you, many of the brands that we do support have been going for many, many years. And of course, that means that we're dealing with heritage goods. And technology is not always at the forefront of their minds. So really, it's about education. And it's about utilizing technology in the right way for your business. So many brands, even like Ascot Racecourse, who we've supported, which has been going for over a century, Technology has never really been at the forefront of their minds. Yet through education, through implementation, through validation, through gathering the right data and proving that these things are working, it's about making sure that technology is intrinsically linked to your DNA for the right reasons. The most important thing is we don't want to alienate your consumers with tech that they've never used before, but it's about looking at the touch points that you've got with your consumer, identifying where technology fits best, and rolling out that technology along your brand system to make sure that people feel comfortable to engage with your brand across the new support mechanisms and engagement mechanisms that you're now offering. And the final question is, what kind of platform technology software do you see brands using a lot more in the future? Within retail, we're seeing an enormous amount of augmented reality. Bringing products into people's homes is an absolute key, whether it's a sofa, a jacket, or a car for that matter. Bringing that kind of to it is certainly a way for retail. Think about commerce, or think about platforms as a whole. The way we see things moving very heavily is towards that kind of chatbot support mechanism online, so that we can support consumers through their purchase journey, not just through simply a transaction, but educating them on what is right for you. So with a brand like Dyson, rather than just, what is the best hairdryer, and we recommend one for £400, it's more about, well, what are you trying to get from a Dyson? Do you struggle with frizzy hair? Do you struggle with your hair is too straight? We then start to understand their goals, and we then start to recommend products that are right for them, similar to what we did with the mattress finder for the brand like Purple. And last time, for a quick question, how can you most effectively combine creativity and tech? Really, what we should be looking at is our strategy, which really should inform our creative decisions, and our creativity should then inform some of our technological decisions. So using technology, not just as a tool, as an intrinsic of how we activate that creativity. So if you look at the Burger King example, where they utilized not only technology to make it impactful and playful, but they've also utilized it in a creative format, because 10 years ago, that had been a printed ad for, rip off this voucher and you can go to your local Burger King and get a free burger and Coke for $2.99. Well, now they've stepped away from that. They've carried away the same creative, but through technology, they've implemented it in a completely new way, leveraging new platforms that now exist that make people far more connected to the brand and far more likely to engage. Now, we're really conscious we wanted to get a load across to you guys today, because it's such a great topic of where brands really should be heading now with this change. We'll look to try and get these slides shared with you. Please reach out to us on LinkedIn directly or through Twitter, and we'll try and pick up as many comments and requests for these slides as possible. But any further questions that you guys have got, we're more than happy to help. But make sure as a brand that you do pivot, you do look at your content, you do look at your creativity, you do look at your strategy, and absolutely must, you do look at how technology starts to activate that to engage with consumers in whole new ways. My name's been Jake Welsh from DEPT. Thanks for attending today, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the presentations through TNW today.